Hello everybody and welcome. In this video, hopefully in less than 10 minutes, we'll have a simple physics scene all set up over in Godot. Okay folks, so let's get started with a new project here. Let's call this Simple Physics. Let's call it that. So Simple Physics. Okay, create a folder. That's absolutely fine, otherwise we won't be able to do it. And boom, we're in. So we're going to want two objects in the scene to keep it nice and simple. We're going to deal with static bodies and rigid bodies, so things that don't move and things that do move. So we're going to create this in 3D in this particular case, but you could do 2D as well. The first thing we need is the root node. Now often that will be the physics node, so Control and A. Let's first of all add in our platform, our static. So let's go ahead, static body, there we go. So that's already in there. Control and A, because it needs a shape. So if we just type in shape here in the search field, we get collision shape, and we've also got our CSG boxes that we're going to use so we can visualize it as well. So let's go ahead, collision shape. It's still complaining because over on the right hand side, we've got shape being empty. And so what we can do is set it, and you may think as a ground plane, you'd want to set it to a plane shape. If you do that, Godot will moan at you. Don't use planes, just use very thin box shapes. Then we can go ahead and grab these little pink handles to adjust the size. Now initially I got confused and then I saw, oh, hang on a minute, this thing's snapping. So if you hold down Control, it will turn snapping off, and then I'm going to set it on its y-axis, on its extents over in the inspector. I'm going to set it to 0.02, I think. That's a good size. Now that's the extent, so it's actually going to be twice as big as that. Whilst we're in the collision shape itself, notice we've got a margin here of 0.04. I'm going to lower that down to 0.01. What I found is otherwise, when the two objects interact with one another, there's too much of a gap, and that basically means that it's going to look odd. It's not actually contacting, but still doing something. Okay. So we've got our collision shape, we've got a static body, but we can't visualize it at the moment because we do not have any mesh. So I'm going to just add back in. Unfortunately, we can just pick a CSG box from here. Same rules as before. And we've got the height here. We're not going to have 0.02. If we did 0.02 and whizzed in round to the side, we will see that there's actually a bit of a buffer here. This is another way of adding a margin into your objects by having the collision happen just outside your model. I'm going to up this to double that to 0.4 and then it will be exact. We'll see how that works out. Okay, so that's pretty much everything sorted out there. Now the nesting that I've got at the top here, the CSG box, could be under the static body as well. But what is important is that the physics node is first. Not necessarily with a static body, but if you wanted to convert it to a rigid body later on, then you will want this hierarchy, otherwise the thing won't move. Okay, so static body, all sorted. Let's go ahead, right click on the node, not the spatial node at the top, but the static body node here. I'm going to save the branch as seen, and I'm going to call this the platform. Excellent. So that's that all sorted. We can close that down. Don't save, and create a new scene. In fact, one's there ready for us to use. So it's another 3D scene. This is going to be a ball that we can interact with, or rather drop, and let physics do its thing. So first of all, let's go ahead and find a rigid body. So rigid, there we go, rigid body. And you can see there that vehicle is a subset of rigid body. So there are certainly more than two physics types that you can have. In this particular case, rigid and static are the main ones. Okay, so we've got our rigid body. If we have a look, we don't have a shape. So let's go ahead and add ourselves a shape. Control A, type in the word shape, collision shape, and over on the right-hand side, we're going to select a sphere shape. We're going to roll a ball along this platform. Now we don't see the extents currently, however there is a little pink blob that we can grab and move to the right size. So we're looking for something called radius. If we go and click on the shape itself, we can see that drops down, and I found that a 0.2 there is pretty good, and I'm going to set a margin of 0.1. Okay, that's that done. So we've got our collision shape, but we can't visualize it. So once again, I'm going to select rigid body in this case, so I don't have to remove it later. CSG sphere, and set the radius at 0.2. So we've got everything matched there. Right click the rigid body, save branch as seen, and we're going to call this ball. Okay, brilliant. Can close that down, don't save. Let's create our final scene here. This is where we're going to implement everything, and also change the physics properties. So this is something you might not be aware of with our physics materials. So I'm going to click the little link here and introduce a platform. I'm going to do two of those. We don't need them nested under one another. You might want to do that if you were moving these platforms around. I'm going to move one of these static bodies down slightly and across, and then rotate it this way. And I'm going to rotate this top one. I'm going to lift it up and rotate it around like that. So the ball should drop down and then come back. It may race off the end. We may need to tweak it. So finally, let's add the ball into our scene. I'm going to lift that up over here. And of course, we might want to go ahead and press play. Let's save our scene. And let's call this Simple Physics. Okay, and we don't see anything. Oh dear, what's going on there? Well, we don't have a camera. So making sure our spatial scene is selected there. I'm going to call this Simple Physics as well, actually, so everything is named accordingly. Okay, Simple Physics. Let's add in a camera so that we can see our world. Now, it doesn't really matter which way around we are, but we do need to face. Let's click on Preview. So we can see our whole scene there. We can probably be a little bit closer. Oh, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to click off the preview. Let's move that in. And in once more, perhaps even there. Yeah, that's fine. So let's now press play. No scene. Let's just select our Simple Physics as our main scene. There we go. It's coming down. And of course it rolls off. So let's move. Is it this one here? Yep. Let's move this along and rotate it a bit more. Press play. So you can refine your scene how you like here. Let's move this back on. And we need to lift it up. Well, that is not surprising with the ball the size it is. Let's try that once more. So this should come down and then roll off. Excellent. So we might want our physics properties to be slightly different. If you've ever played, my main forte is Blender. So what we can do is actually go back into the original scenes themselves, either the platform or the ball, and give it a physics material. My colleague Jan, by the way, has gone into more details about physics layer in a recent video he's released, so do check that out if you want more information on collision layers as well. So we have platform and ball, they're now open at the top here. What I can do is go into the rigid body itself, and on the, or rather in the inspector, on the physics material, we can give it a new physics material. Then when we click on that, we've got a couple of options: friction, rough, bounce and absorbent. So if I give this a bounce rating of 5 and do the same for the platform, that was currently the ball, make sure you save that, come back over to the platform, go to the static body itself, that's important, and then we will add a physics material, new physics material, drop that down and give this a bounce of 5 as well. Now everything's super bouncy. Let's see what happens if we go ahead and drop our ball from a bit of a bigger height. We may find it bounces off the screen. I haven't tried with the value of 5. Doing? Doing? Yes, off it goes. So there we go. Just by tweaking a few of these values, you've got a much more interesting game, because not only are these objects interacting with each other physically, but you're now changing the physics properties by adjusting the material. And of course, you could share that physics material amongst other objects as well. Okay, that's it for this quick tip. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next one.